Next up, we have one Ben Wheat. Ben's a big failure guy. Big failure guy. Been failing professionally for 10 years and counting. Currently doing it at Kamana. Husband and dad. Food? Just food.
Yeah, just food.
Just food. Likes to ask people how they're actually doing. Ben Wheat, failure is the only option. Give a round of applause, everyone.
Hey, everybody, thank you. So I guess I don't need to say any of those words all over again. So there it is, the most useless slide on every deck. So first, I want to thank a couple people. I want to thank Kamana for helping me get here today to be able to present. I want to thank Maggie and Bruce for everything, all of it, just all the things. Really appreciate the confidence and the support. And I really want to thank my wife for, I've been thinking through this talk for a couple of years now, and she has had the patience to listen to my ramblings and my nonsense and has supported me through all of that. So thank you. All right, so one of the first questions that is usually asked when you give a talk is, why are you the person to talk about this? So I'm going to list my qualifications as to why I'm qualified to talk about failure. And I'm very excited about it. It's one of my favorite things. So I've been on a journey for a long time of embracing failure, both personally, professionally. It wasn't until I finally figured out how to embrace being wrong on the job that I found like significant freedom. I found freedom in how quickly I could grow, in ways I could grow. So I was learning much faster, I was contributing to my team, to my work. What I learned most, and like one of the most important things I hope everybody can get out of this is being wrong publicly is like one of the most like intense things you can do for a team is to do the wrong thing publicly so that everyone sees you did the wrong thing. And it's okay. It's okay to do the wrong thing. So I learned to do this, and when I ended up getting the opportunity to take over leading a team, I continued to do this so that my team saw, hey, this guy's leading the team, and he's continuing to just be a screw-up constantly, so I guess like the rest of us are okay. So what I tried to do was set the foundation for our team was around a culture of it's okay to be wrong, it's okay to fail, and everything's okay. So we'll talk a little bit more about how we can do that. So this is the F word. And it's a difficult F word to look at. So obviously I'm going to say the word failure many, many times. What is difficult about it is that it's an uncomfortable word. It probably leads to a lot of feelings of like what we did wrong at some point, professionally, personally. I can think about times that I failed and the result was like I lost my job because that's what happens. So it can be kind of tough. It can be tough to talk about, to think about, to consider. But what we're going to do here, what we're going to do is some PR for big failure, okay? Because their PR department is awful and they just have, everyone's got it all wrong. So let's start with this first one. In order to succeed, you have to fail. You have to do the wrong thing. Here's why. You can't actually measure success until you have done the wrong thing. So you can succeed and be like, yeah, I did the right thing. But the problem is like, yeah, you maybe did the right thing, but until you do it completely wrong, you're not actually confident that you've done it the right way. Let's think about it a different way. When we write a feature, you're writing some, CRUD app that we all write, you have acceptance criteria within all of that, and the acceptance criteria is something like it works. That's great. Very helpful. We've all read these tickets. All of you wrote these tickets at some point and still writing them today and tomorrow. The problem is we haven't considered, when we're working on a feature, we haven't considered actually what are the limitations of the feature? What happens, like how can it go completely sideways? How can none of it work? The reason that that's actually way more important than it works is because we have to know the limits as to where this thing can go, right? Because otherwise we just know things work and you kind of have to make sure, well, I have this join table and that has to be in the right state for the whole thing to work, and if that's not, then things kind of a mess, right? So we have to understand what's wrong in order to know what's right. So the next idea here, what I think I would like to see from all of us in this industry is that our engineering cultures are based upon failure. They're based upon doing things wrong and knowing that things can be wrong and that it's okay. So let's break this down into a couple of things. The reason that it's important that we start from this point is because when things go wrong, because obviously I know we haven't written code that breaks, it's fine, you are a great engineer, you write good code, but some of us write bad code that doesn't work frequently sometimes. So what's important is that we know when things go bad, we actually know how to fix them because we knew that things could go bad and we were prepared for it. The great thing about this is that when things go completely sideways, if you've worked from a place of everything's going to go bad, then your team is prepared. So when prod has fallen over, it's okay because we have a process. We're okay. Everyone is, like, the anxiety is lowered because we're all ready for it, right? When someone decides on a Monday morning that they're going to completely delete and drop the prod database, it's okay. Guys, it's actually okay because we have a process to have snapshots that we're testing regularly, and it's okay because we can just restore from that and everything's fine and then we can go on. We don't have to spend all day in an incident and all of this blame and stress and anxiety because we've assumed that someone's gonna come in Monday morning and drop prod. Just work from that point. Way easier. The other great thing about people and building a culture of failure is that people are more apt to take risk, which means our innovation, our creativity, and our freedom increases. So let's talk a little bit more about process. One of the important things about process, Keithy told me that I could just press a button. Oh, there it is. It did magic things. There it is. It looks awful. I'm bad at doing this, so you're welcome. So one of the important things about failure is that we know that things are going to go wrong. So when things go wrong, like a process, we don't just throw the process out. We review the process. Why did it go wrong? How did it go wrong? Because you all took this talk to heart and you all wrote in your processes how things are going to go wrong, why they're going to go wrong, and what we're going to do about it, you are prepared. And when you look at the list of things that went wrong, you say, oh, we did not think about that one. Great. Let's add it to the list, and it's documented, and now everyone knows in our process that this is a thing that we know can go wrong. Now we're all set. We can all move on, and our team is stronger because of it. Oh, it just goes down. Oh, I did not do this right. Well, there we go. Failure. And it's okay. All right, so let's talk about systems, which is this thing over here, because I just did the lazy thing and grabbed whatever objects were in Keynote. So systems. We know that things are going to go wrong. One of the most important things when you're building a system, there's a couple things. It's going back to what I said earlier about building a feature. You know the happy path. You know how things need to work. it's also like you have to take the time to think about how things are not going to work and decide how things should not work. How should the thing not, right? If this thing doesn't succeed, should the rest of this work or not? Should the product operate this way, right? So this is not just an engineering problem, this is a how should the product work, right? So we need to talk about the elephant in the room. It's a big one, and it has nothing to do with how my slides don't work. We've all heard this. We've all said this, right? Hand up who said just let it crash. Yep, all of you who did not put your hands up, you're liars. It's fine, it's okay. We've all said when someone asks us in a PR, hey, what about this thing? And you're like, just let it crash, it's fine. Guys, come on. That is lazy, right? It's completely lazy. The only way that this works, the only way that this is correct, the only way that this is a thing that as a community we say this is what we believe, is that you actually thought about it. You thought about letting the system crash. Because there are places where you say, no, 100% the system should just fall over. Great, but you actually thought about it. Not just, I don't know, whatever else, it'll just fall over. Like, that's not actually successful. Thinking about how you want it to crash is actually successful. Great, we good? Everybody good? We're not gonna keep saying this lazily, everybody? Yep, great, got it. No one agrees with this. All right. This is supposed to do magic things again, but again, as I said, I don't know how to use Keynote, so this is what we've got. It gets worse. Okay, so let's talk about people. This is the best I could do. I was hoping for like whatever, again, I lazily did this. So people. So people on your teams, this is an important thing to remember. They're actually humans, right? They have emotions, they have thoughts, they have lives, they have personalities. Their lives are not just coming to work and letting everything crash lazily. They are actual people that have thoughts and have things going on. One of the big things that I've found when I've tried to talk to people and convince them that they should fail more often is there is this constant risk of, well, if I do it wrong, if I fail, then I'm going to be fired for not doing my job right. This doesn't work, right? This does not work at all. What we have to actually do is support people, build a culture where we're telling people you are supported in doing the wrong thing. This is important. You have to do the wrong thing often. Do the wrong thing, you're supported. It has no bearing on whether you are going to continue to be employed here or not. That is completely outside of all of this. Theoretically, should be. We can have conversations about how we're all doing it wrong. It's fine, we'll do it later. So that kind of goes in, oh, it did work. Whatever, who cares? Guys, it is okay to build a feature, to take 3 months, to build something that you got requirements for from product. Everybody built a system around it. You thought about it, you designed it, you did everything you needed to do. You shipped it, and everyone said, it just doesn't work. And to say, great, we'll throw it out and start over again. This is okay, because the other option you have is that you're going to build nonsense on top of trash. So just stop doing that, right? How many product people do we have? No one. Yeah. Stop. Stop. Just stop doing it. What's important in what we can do as engineers to work with product is to explain, one, is to explain risks when we when we are working to say this is what we believe we should do. It's discussing the risks, making sure everyone's clear on it, and products just say, yeah, fine, whatever, I don't care, whatever you guys do. When we get to the end of this, we also have to talk about the risks of sticking with it. Because if the result is, yeah, well, like in 6 months, this is not gonna work at all, and then we're gonna have to rewrite it then, and but we have like 12 features that we already promised this customer that we're gonna build on, so just like keep building that, and then like a little bit later, like we'll build it again later, right? We just have continually bad systems that all of us complain about. Every single one of us in the room complains about the code base we're in. We keep doing nonsense like this. So let's just stop doing that, right? Great, glad we agree. Okay, so I've got some solutions. One of the things we gotta start with is at the top. Organizational leadership has to embrace this idea. Because if organizational leaders are actually being willing to also publicly say, hey, we did that wrong. Hey, that didn't work, and that's okay. That then allows the rest of us to say, well, if the CEO is saying that they moved the company in the total opposite direction of where we should be going, I guess I can ship this thing that doesn't work quite right, and it's okay. So once leaders have done this, now we're getting into middle-ish management. This gives them the freedom to also be supportive of their team to ship things that aren't quite right, that don't quite work, that we're not quite sure about, to experiment, right? Then this comes all the way down to engineers who daily are supported, know that they are supported by people above them to do the wrong thing. And again, going back to, let's quit firing people for just doing the wrong thing because we should be supporting them for doing the right thing. So just stop doing that. Thank you. So this leads to a blameless culture. How many of you tell everybody at your company that you have a blameless culture? Everybody says it. And yet, we're not actually doing that. Because we're shipping things that are wrong, and we're saying, well, they screwed it up, their name is on that thing, and now we have to support the nonsense and trash that they built. Instead of saying, hey, that didn't work, great, let's do something else, right? Yeah, exactly. We'll talk more tonight. All right, so we are building our cultures, our engineering cultures, on failure. This is a good thing. But we have to actually understand what failure is and when we've achieved failure. It's something to achieve. I'm working on it, guys. The PR for big failure is gonna, it's gonna be fine. Okay, it is called the acceptable rate of failure. Yeah, ARF for short. Yeah, ARF. Right, I'm gonna keep saying ARF, and you're all going to accept it. ARF. So let's talk about the acceptable rate of failure. It's literally what it says. There's nothing really more to explain about it. What we're trying to understand is there should be a quantifiable measurement for each of these things to say, this process failed. We saw this because we see how often it's failing, it's not working, great. That means we can stop, review the process, fix what's not working, then we re-review the ARF, which is totally gonna catch on. We re-review it and decide, is this still actually the rate of failure that we expect, or should it be higher or lower? Because did it cause other problems that if we had caught it earlier, we'd have been in better shape, right? So lower your ARF, or raise it, ARF. I'm gonna keep going with it, it's gonna happen. Our systems are the same way. If your system is falling over too often, well, then you should fix it. One, you should fix it, your system. Instead of ignoring all the logs and error messages that are coming through Sentry and AppSignal, you should actually fix them instead. It's a much better solution. You have to decide at what point, right, for each system you have to decide what's the acceptable rate of failure for the system. So previously I've worked at something that was loosely tied to the concept of banking. That's as much as I'll say about that. We decided as a organization that the acceptable rate of failure, they didn't even know that they were developing ARF. I'm gonna keep doing it. The acceptable rate of failure for logging in and being able to access their money was next to 0, right? This is reasonable. This is a reasonable expectation, right? Theoretically. Technically, is it reasonable? It's not as reasonable. But this is a conversation that we have to decide on, right? So this becomes, we looked at our system, we looked at our expectations of our users, and we decided at what point do we say this thing, we cannot let this thing fail below this rate. If it does, we step in, we fix a problem, and then we look at this again. And if we're like, hey guys, the system's falling below our ARF way too often, maybe we don't actually have an acceptable rate of failure problem. Maybe our system just simply cannot be better than that. So then we have to decide, well, should we fix the system? Can we improve the system? Let's actually improve things. Let's find ways to do it better. Right, so how do we apply this? Because so far I've just said nonsense. And perfect, I already explained all this. Failure is a difficult word because it means a lot of things to everybody. It means a lot of things to our system, to our persons, to our teams, to our organizations. So to get some ideas of what everybody else is kind of feeling about what does failure mean, I went to the Bird app and I asked the 5 people who are left over there. And I got some responses. I mean, they wrote the talk for me. It is failing to fail. Doesn't come without failing, right? I'll let you guys deal with that one. My good friend that I play golf with, I agree with this, even though this is what I do for golf. This one kind of hits a little bit different for me. Again, this is about if we are better understanding who we are, what we're doing, and being able to accept that sometimes we just don't do things right, we can actually improve. It's a great one. Giving up means I'm still learning. Calculated risk, also a great one, also important. One of my favorites. Let's just try again tomorrow. This is an important one. The pursuit of net gain and the calculated risk. This is such an important part of building our teams and our systems upon failure, is that we have to know what the risks are. Again, it's okay if we don't know what the risks are, because we don't know until we try it. So try it, fail, figure out what the risks are, and now we can move on. So the last thing I want to leave you with is kind of a slight bit of my journey of failure. For a long time, I didn't do a great job of doing the wrong thing. Doing the wrong thing and acknowledging that I did the wrong thing. My wife is somewhere saying, I sense a disturbance. Once I learned that it was okay to say I was completely wrong, or to say I have no idea. I know I'm supposed to know the answer to that, but I just have no clue. It's my favorite answer in an interview. I started to take that kind of in a direction that was not as healthy, and I started to focus myself on it became a lot more self-deprecation, and it became a lot more talking to myself as, well, if you hadn't failed at that, maybe you could have done this, maybe we could have done that, right? There's a part of this journey was taking this a step too far, right? We have to, and we as people, we as humans, I assume there are many others in this room that go through this personally. We have to work on them. We have to give ourselves the grace and understanding to say, I did it wrong, and it's okay. It's okay. It's okay to ship bad code. Not unless, don't do it on purpose, but it's okay to ship bad code. It's okay for things to be wrong, right? It's okay for the other engineer on your team to do something that just wasn't great. It's okay. We can all we can all move on together. So today, I hope that you will fail much more than you are. Seek out failure. Add it to the way that you develop. Fail as often as possible. Don't move fast and break things, because but absolutely fail, and fail with intentionality. Thank you.